Creativity is a wild mind and a disciplined eye. Dorothy Parker. Hey, you crazy kids, and welcome to Voices in My Closet. Yes, this episode is being released at the end of the week. I'm trying to experiment a little bit with this whole 3-video-a-week format before I make it totally official, just seeing if maybe this is something that I want to do to wrap up the week instead of having it at the very beginning of the week, and also kind of saves me some sanity with all of the editing that I'm doing because I'm trying to work with Music Mondays on Mondays and also adding in more impression type videos too. So we'll see how this works. You can feel free to let me know if you prefer this at the beginning of the week or the end of the week. I hope you all had a great week. This episode, I thought I could talk to all of you about the origins of my mind, not where my mind came from necessarily, just what my thought process is with making videos, and where all of that sort of stemmed from. Why I'm always in some sort of creative mindset, even if I'm not making videos. I'm constantly thinking of that, and sometimes it kills me because I can't make videos because of some other thing going on in my life. But I'm constantly thinking, constantly coming up with ideas, and sometimes I hit roadblocks. But I kind of want to talk about just where all of that came from, where the whole idea of creating and making things started out with me. So let's take a trip back down my memory lane of creativity. When I was a kid, I loved building things. I loved making stuff. I would love playing with Lego sets. Legos were my absolute favorite. Legos are still my absolute favorite. And trust me, if I had Legos today, you'd better believe that I'd be building them and playing with them because I am still an 8-year-old. I absolutely loved the Star Wars sets from 15 years ago, as well as the generic sets like the Lego Knights. Sometimes I would get the Mega Bloks models because those were a lot less expensive, but they had really cool models. They were really nice. They weren't fun to step on. Legos, Mega Bloks, regardless, they were not fun to step on. And I'm sure a lot of you have had those experiences, or at least have heard how painful those experiences are. And aside from Legos, whenever I didn't have Legos to play with, whenever those weren't at my disposal, I did have cardboard. I loved working with cardboard and paper, and the cardboard tubes, like the paper towel roll tubes and the wrapping paper tubes and the toilet paper tubes, any of those things, those were my second favorite to Legos because I always loved building things out of those with staples and with tape and with glue. And I loved building stuff that wouldn't last for very long. I would make it, and there was no real structural integrity to most of the stuff that I built, and it would fall apart, and I'd have to throw it out. But even so, I was still always rifling through my parents' recycling bins, just trying to find stuff that I could possibly build with, because I loved that. It was something that I really enjoyed doing. I think instead of going outside all the time, I would spend my time, later at night and even early in the mornings when I was watching TV, building something while I was doing that. And I really enjoyed it. It was something that kept my mind busy, and it kind of allowed me to be creative in that kind of way, sort of in a physical sense with just the different things that I could find around the house. And obviously, I have to kind of expand from cardboard tubes and Legos and everything like that, even though I would have loved to become some kind of master builder. I think the people who have those professional jobs as expert Lego builders, that just seems like a dream come true. Not my dream necessarily, but a dream that I could have possibly pursued if I was serious enough about it. And as I moved on from Legos and from cardboard, I started getting into more of the two-dimensional plane. I really loved making things, drawing comics and doing sketches. And if you've gone as far back to the very beginning of my Instagram feed, you'll notice that I did do a lot of sketches, mostly of the characters from the TV show Avatar: The Last Airbender. I loved sketching their characters because the art style was my absolute favorite. It's still my absolute favorite of any show that I've ever seen. It was something that took my mind off of things. It was great stress relief, even though, if I were to mess up, it would be kind of annoying because I'd have to erase, I'd have to start over. But it always took up a few hours of my time. Before I had a job, it was something that allowed me to be creative, and something that helped me to practice what I consider my more artistic skills. I'll let you be the judge of what you consider artistic. And it was something that was cool. It was a different facet of art, and I enjoy doing that too. I've written comics, I've drawn comics. I created a comic about my life when I was in college, but we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Backtracking along with the whole art thing, when I took art in school, I always wanted everything to be absolutely perfect. I was too much of a perfectionist to the point where I could not keep up with the rest of the class and the projects. The teacher would give us an art assignment, and we basically could have as much time as we wanted on it. The thing is that I took way too much time. So when everybody else was starting on something on one project, I was like 2 projects behind, and then 2 weeks later, I would finally catch up to them. So it was my problem with being a perfectionist, and I always got perfect grades on my art projects, but I loved being able to work more with, pastels and with paints, and sometimes with clay. I believe we did a little bit of sculpting too, but it allowed me to exercise different forms of creativity other than just building. But I ended up being able to draw things and to paint things and to sculpt things. Another way that allowed me to be creative, because we were sort of able to put our own spin on whatever projects we were given. I was able to make a wireframe sculpture. I remember that was a lot of fun, and it was something that I think really stimulated my mind in a way that nothing else really could, other than music. I think music was the only other thing that could stimulate my mind, sort of in that way, but more in a not so physical sense, but more of a mental sense and a vocal sense, I guess. Moving on to high school. In high school, I had moved on from art classes because art classes weren't required. I moved on, obviously, from the Legos and the cardboard, even though on occasions I would make stuff because I needed them for certain things. Not very important. Just know that I was still building stuff, even though I was probably too old for it. In high school, I didn't really have any way of building things. I took some architecture class that I thought I really wanted to take. For a while, I thought that I wanted to be an architect or some kind of construction worker, some kind of builder when I grew up. And in high school, I thought maybe architect was the best way to go for that. And I ended up realizing that it was not the best way to go. It was probably the worst way for me to go. I did not want to do all of the math involved. And maybe some of you who do want to become architects or do love math, maybe you like that kind of thing. For me, it wasn't something that I was going to enjoy for the rest of my life. I didn't want to go doing math, something that, I've struggled with for a while, for the rest of my life, doing it in my job. So I decided to move away from that. And with speech and debate and choir, again, those were 2 things that I stuck with in high school, but were more of a whole vocal acting type of creative, something where I had to follow a script or I had to follow music. And while there was some creativity in there, it wasn't the physical kind of creativity that I craved from when I could build things. So I kind of moved on from that, and into college was really where I got my start. But in high school, it was still kind of like an unsure phase for me. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, or why I wanted to do what I thought I might want to do. So it was kind of a confusing time, kind of I reached a moment of realization after high school, going into college, and having different influences. I think I had a lot more influences when I went to college. Being in college allowed me to sort of explore a little more. I had more time to do things that I wanted to do. I was able to join different organizations and just have a lot more time to explore and be creative and find out exactly what I wanted to do. And this is sort of where the whole YouTube thing came into play, because I remember my freshman year finding a video of this woman doing voice impressions of different Pokemon. And obviously, some of you might know that this was Brizzy Voices, my first inspiration for starting a YouTube channel. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool, because I at that point I knew that I wanted to get into voice acting. I just wasn't really sure how to go about it, and I noticed how popular she had gotten even back then. So I thought, well, maybe I want to do more of what she does. And at the time, I just thought of it as kind of like, recording yourself and then putting it on the internet. So I wasn't really sure. And then fast forward to 1 year after that was when I actually started my channel. I think I'm coming up on 4 years now. About 4 years ago, around this time, I decided to start a channel. All I had was my computer webcam, and this is actually the microphone that I bought with it because I knew I needed something with quality audio that could handle loud voices, and it was bad. I thought it was great, for my very first try. I had my freeware, my Windows Movie Maker, which is terrible quality, and my webcam was terrible quality. This was the only thing that was good quality, the sound. And I made my video. It took me over the course of 3 or 4 days. I did it all over spring break, and then I tried editing it with another freeware, because I had to switch from one freeware to another in order to get the pictures onto the video. So it was a process, and I felt really fulfilled. I didn't tell anybody about that video. I didn't really explain to my parents what I was doing, and I didn't tell any of my friends. So I just posted the video and was expecting to get some views, and it never really got any views. Even to this day, it has, I'm pretty sure, the least amount of views out of any of my videos. So it was something that I was expecting a little more from, but what didn't happen with the views, it sort of made up for in what I was making. I was making something that, I was back to creating things. I was back to building things, and obviously it was a far stretch from, making something physical out of Legos or cardboard or wire, or even just sketches, to completely digital, doing everything on the computer, doing everything with a camera and a microphone, and then transferring all of that to a computer to edit it. And I kind of got that, that stimulation, that creative stimulation in my mind that I used to have when I was younger. And obviously it took on a different form, but a much more advanced form, a more technologically advanced form. And it sort of reminded me of being a kid again, being a bit of a smarter kid, I think. And I loved it. I loved being able to do that. So I kept making videos. I would only do them maybe every few months because I didn't have too much time to devote to it, because I was still taking several days to make videos, because I was still learning the software. And at some point, I think maybe a year later, I decided, okay, this needs to be better. I need to take this more seriously. So I bought myself a camera, the same camera that I'm using right now. I've been playing around with other software too, and I think that the quality of my videos has definitely improved in terms of visual quality. Maybe not so much the content quality. It's still kind of a silly, bizarre content quality. Again, I'll let you be the judge of that. But it was still something that I could make, and I love doing it. And while it is stress relieving, it can also be very stressful. But I think it's the good kind of stress, the kind of stress that allows me to learn more about myself and learn more about everything that I'm working on. And I think I've gotten better at editing in a shorter period of time. I've learned a lot from my mistakes in the past. I'm still making plenty of mistakes, which is okay because I need to learn from those mistakes too. But I just wanted to share with all of you, how great it feels to be able to, start from something like textiles. I don't know if that's the right term, and moving on completely digital, but still keeping that creative mind, still, focusing on something that I can make myself and call it my own and be able to share with other people. Before it was always just for myself, but now I have the opportunity to share with other people because we have things like YouTube and other sharing sites, social sharing sites online where we can share our work if we're open to criticism. I mean, I am I do love the feedback that I get from all of you, and I do a lot of what I do for all of you, and I'm rhyming right now just for you. I love being able to get feedback from all of you. I love being able to do this for all of you. But I think my favorite part, ultimately, and don't get offended by this, but I love the fact that I can create this. And my favorite part is having the ability to make this and doing this for me. And that's who I'm doing it for. I'm doing this mostly for me, second for you, but mostly for me, for my benefit of learning more, finding out what works and doesn't work, and building from that. And I think that I've been building and I'll always be building. And the most amazing thing I think about this is the fact that while some people are considered professionals or experts in video editing or in any other kind of profession, there's always so much more that people can learn. In my realm of video work, I know that there is way too much that I do not know yet, and I'd love to learn more. But it's also kind of lingering over my head that I'm not going to learn everything before before the end of my life. I'll never be able to learn every single thing that I would want to learn. But at the same time, I'm kind of okay with that because it means that there's no stopping point. It means that I don't have to stop. I can go as far as I want to, and there'll still be plenty left for me if I ever want to go further. So it's kind of comforting. It might seem overwhelming sometimes, but I also think it's very comforting. So that's my takeaway from all of this. And maybe some of you have had similar experiences where you did something that you loved as a child, and then as you got older, it evolved into something else. And I'd love to hear about those. I love being able to share. I don't know if you can tell how enthusiastic I am about this, but I love being able to share this kind of stuff. My story about how exactly where I think my creative roots came from. And again, I use creative lightly because not everybody thinks of creativity in the same way. But I like the idea that I sort of started from something physical and something almost innocent and childlike to something much more professional. And again, I still have a long way to go, but I love the idea of knowing that I have so much more that I can learn if I want to learn it, which I definitely do intend on learning more. But again, let me know in the comments if what your creative processes are. Where do you think all of your creativity stemmed from? If you don't think you're creative, I think I'd still give you the benefit of the doubt, because I think we all have something that sparks our interest, whether it's music or art or exercising, anything really. We all have our own way of expressing how our mind works and how creative we can be and how imaginative or ingenuine we are. So let me know. Let me know in the comments. I love the feeling of productivity. I love that feeling, and I'm curious if any of you are as insane about this as I am. But I made this video a little bit, well, I thought it was going to be a little bit shorter. It's looking like the same amount of time as usual because I've been sick and I'm trying not to talk too much, which obviously did not happen because I decided to choose a topic I'm very passionate about for this week. But I'm going to go and relax a little bit and, take my vitamins and hopefully get better. But I'll leave the rest up to you to, flood the comments with stuff you're passionate about. I hope you all have a great upcoming week, and I will see you at the end of next week.